In the heart of the windy and sunny desert, amid the endless golden dunes, is where the ancient Egyptians placed their greatest dream. Not power, not wealth, but eternity. As the afternoon sun beats down on the pyramid-shaped stones, had he ever wondered, what's inside? Why did the Egyptians spend their lives preparing for death? And gently explore the things they buried with them, from pottery, food, gold jewelry, to prayers written in black ink. Tonight, we will enter ancient tombs, open doors that have been sealed for thousands of years. A conversation without words, only images, symbols, and a belief in the sacred. But this is not just a journey through objects. This is a conversation with people who lived more than 3,000 years ago. That death... is never the end. Sit down, relax, and let the whispers of the desert and the ancient secrets guide you into a deep sleep in the heart of mysterious Egypt. Part 1. Life After Death. Royal Egyptian Beliefs in the Silent Night of the Egyptian Desert. Among the golden dunes and towering pyramids, the ancient Egyptians believed that death is not the end. It is just a threshold leading to another journey. An afterlife, where the soul continues to live, but only if carefully prepared. For the pharaohs and the nobility, such preparation was an art, a declaration of power, faith, and the immortality of the soul. The soul is not just one. The Egyptians did not believe that humans only have a simple body and soul as we imagine today. They believed that each person is made up of many parts. Ket, the physical body. Ka, a part of the divine life force, representing vitality and individuality. Ba, the soul that can leave the body and move between worlds. Ren, the name, the thing that helps a person be remembered. And sometimes there is also Shoit, the shadow, which also carries a part of the soul. Therefore, life after death depends not only on proper burial, but also on each part being preserved, honored, and nurtured in the afterlife. Do it, the labyrinth of the afterlife. The afterlife is not simple. The Egyptians called it the Do-It, an underground universe where souls must overcome trials, monsters, dangerous waters, closed gates, and judgment by the gods. He is the judge of souls. During the legendary trial, the heart of the deceased would be weighed against a feather, a symbol of justice and order. If the heart was heavier, meaning it was guilty, the soul would not be reborn. At the head of this place is Osiris, the god of death and rebirth. The tomb was more than just a resting place. It was a spiritual spaceship, carrying everything needed to cross the Do-It and rise again in the eternal world. That is why every pharaoh meticulously prepared for this journey. The pharaoh's eternal home. Only then could the pharaoh be reborn and continue to rule. Not the world of the living, but the world of the gods. From the way they built the pyramids, the design of the tomb, to the incantations carved on the walls, everything had a clear purpose: to ensure the soul would not get lost. Long dark corridors simulated the journey of the Do-It. Statues of gods guarded the corners, and the country would be in turmoil, both in this world and in the next. Sacred texts such as the Book of the Dead or Amulet were drawn in detail to guide the soul step by step. Everything had to be in the right direction, in the right ritual, in the right vow. Immortality was not a dream, but a duty. For ordinary people, life after death was a hope. But for the pharaoh, it was a duty. A king was not allowed to disappear, for he was the incarnation of Horus when he was alive, and Osiris when he was dead. If the pharaoh could not be reborn, the order of Mat would be in chaos. That was why the Egyptians devoted all their material and spiritual resources to preparing the royal tomb. Not to show off, but to protect the stability of the world, of the cosmic order, and to send the soul of a king to the place where the immortal stars shine forever. Part 2. Burial Items. A map for the eternal journey in the ancient Egyptians' deep belief. Death is not an end, but only a threshold leading to another world, where the soul will continue a long and challenging journey to eternity, called the Do-It. To overcome that journey, Egyptian royalty prepared for themselves a solemn and sophisticated luggage of burial items in the tomb, reflecting not only wealth, but also the spiritual philosophy and cosmology of a mysterious civilization. 1. Everyday items, the beginning of a re-established world. The Egyptians believed that the soul and spirit of the dead still needed to be nourished and function as when they were alive. Therefore, in the tombs of pharaohs, people placed familiar items such as tables, chairs, dishes, cutlery, perfume bottles, bronze mirrors, and even linen clothes. These items are not only wealth, but also a part of the owner's soul, carrying with them a part of their identity to the afterlife. 2. Food and wine, source of life for the soul. In Egyptian belief, the afterlife can last forever, so the soul needs to be provided with enough food to live forever. They're placed in the tomb as guardians of the soul on its journey through the Do-It. Alongside these were amulets, especially the sacred scarab amulet, symbolizing rebirth and the rising sun. These were placed near the heart to remind the heart not to betray the soul at the time of judgment. They believe that the soul can absorb sacred energy from food without actually eating or drinking. Royal tombs are often filled with jars of wheat, dates, onions, dried fish, poultry, and especially jars of wine or barley beer, but also served as evidence that the soul was recognized in the afterlife. And each item became a whisper of careful preparation, determination, and confidence in the eternal life ahead. The Egyptians believed that without these symbols, the soul would be considered inferior, denied rebirth, and forever wandering. 3. Statues and amulets, guardians on the way, small wooden, limestone, or gold statues, representing gods such as Osiris, Anubis, Isis. 4. The Book of the Dead, a guide to overcoming trials. One of the most sacred objects was the papyrus, which recorded the Book of the Dead, also known as the Book of the Dead. This was a collection of spells, images, and instructions to help the deceased pass through the 12 gates of the Do-It, escape the beast, answer the 42 questions of the god Mat at the judgment, and attain eternal life with Osiris. For the pharaohs, this was like a spiritual map, personalized with their name and title, written in red and black ink on precious papyrus. 5. Gold, jewelry, and symbols of power, preserving status after death. From Tutankhamun's gold mask to his jeweled bracelets, scepters, crowns, and jade-encrusted caskets, treasures not only displayed power in life. Part 2 of this story is not simply a list of antiques, but a window into the ancient Egyptian soul, where death was seen as a prelude. Part 3, Reimagining Life, the journey to resurrection in the afterlife, deep in the limestone coffins or colorful tombs. What the ancient Egyptians left behind was more than just material wealth. It was a map of survival for the afterlife. Unlike other civilizations that saw death as an end, the Egyptians saw it as a departure into another form of existence, where the soul needed not only guidance, but also very practical items to recreate the entire earthly life. They brought with them not only gold, silver, and precious stones, but also furniture, makeup boxes, wooden knives, underwear, even dried or fake ceramic food. Each item was part of a miniature universe, from the bed, the pillow, to the makeup box, or the wooden spoon engraved with the owner's name. They believed that the dead would come back to life exactly as they had lived, would need to sleep, wake up, bathe, eat, and converse with their deceased servants or spouses, and that these items were a means of reproducing that behavior in the Do-It of the afterlife. In particular, Ashabti statues were often hundreds of small stone or terracotta replicas, representing servants ready to work for the dead when the gods called them, but also a ritual that simulated the process of overcoming spiritual pitfalls on the journey to the afterlife. They carried musical items such as small harps for entertainment, or the game of Senate, which was not only a game. This shows a key difference from the previous sections. The ancient Egyptians did not just bury items out of belief in magic or protection, but because they truly believed that they would continue to live and act exactly as they had on earth. The reconstruction of daily life in the tomb is an act of art and religion combined, reflecting a deep human desire to exist eternally, not to be forgotten, and not to lose one's identity. Therefore, an oil lamp, a small cup of wine, or a bronze mirror are not isolated objects. They are pieces of an ideal world where the dead hope to awaken again. Part 4. Through the Do-It. Journey into darkness and the final judgment when the soul leaves the body. The ancient Egyptians believed that it does not immediately enter the peaceful world. Instead, it must pass through a complex and challenging underworld. The Do-It, a chaotic wilderness between light and darkness, where time does not flow as it does in the mortal world, and the soul must overcome countless traps to be reborn. On its journey, they will encounter mysterious gates, guarded by creatures that are a combination of humans, snakes, crocodiles, and the spirits of gods. The Do-It is not hell, but a sacred arena where the soul must prove its true nature. To pass, the soul needs secret spells, often engraved or written on papyrus scrolls, buried in the tomb called the Book of the Dead. The inscriptions were not meant to be read as stories, but as spells, instructions on how to respond, avoid danger, and protect the soul from destruction. An Ujjat eye to protect the vision, a scarab to protect the heart from betrayal at the hour of judgment. Along the way, they would also need amulets, protective charms placed on each part of the body during the mummification process. The journey culminated in the Great Judgment before the throne of Osiris, the god of death. There, the heart of the deceased, considered the repository of all memories, actions, and emotions, would be weighed on a scale. But to prepare for a sacred trial where cosmic justice will decide eternal life. On the other side of the scale was an ostrich feather of the goddess Maat, a symbol of truth, justice, and cosmic order, which has the body of a hippopotamus, the head of a crocodile, and the legs of a lion. At that time, the soul will disappear forever. There will be no more reincarnation, no hell, only absolute oblivion, which was the most terrifying thing to the ancient Egyptians. The soul will be led to the field of reeds, a peaceful land where they can live forever among the fertile fields together with their family and deceased ancestors. If the heart is as light as or lighter than the feather, but if the heart is heavier, meaning it carries sin, it will be swallowed by the monster Ammit. Therefore, all the items, spells, and rituals performed in the tomb are not only to comfort the dead. Part 5. Eternity and Memory. Why the Egyptians wanted to be remembered forever. When you stand in front of an ancient Egyptian tomb with its painted walls, carefully buried precious items, and mummies preserved for thousands of years, you might think this is a place to sleep forever. But the ancient Egyptians did not consider death to be an end. They believed that if a person was called by the right name, remembered and properly celebrated, that soul would still be alive, even if the body had rotted or lay in a stone coffin. Therefore, on the tomb wall, you will see the name of the deceased repeated many times, engraved in ink, carved into stone, or written in gold. A person only truly dies a second time when no one calls their name anymore. That is why they created colorful portraits, life-size statues placed in tombs, and left autobiographical lines. And the dead, between the past and the present, between the finite and the eternal. I built, I plowed, I loved my wife. Please pour water for me. Please tell me my name. I am Ka, a gentle and human plea. Whether a great pharaoh or a humble potter, everyone longs to be remembered, not only by the gods, but by the living people who continue to pass through this world. And so, tombs are not just places to rest, but bridges between two worlds, between the living and now. When you know all the things that the Egyptians buried with their dead, ask yourself, is it true that deep inside every human being, regardless of civilization, we all carry the same desire, not to be forgotten?